Ukrainians around the world are marking Ukraine Independence Day today, all while the Russian invasion of Ukraine continues, a war that has been raging on for more than a year. And joining me now is Roger Hilton, a global security researcher with the think tank GlobeSec. Roger, Ukraine is marking 32 years of independence from the Soviet Union. How significant is the day this year given the ongoing battle with Russia?
Well, it's a pleasure to be here. To start with, for all of our viewers, I think, this is the second year of independence celebrations in Ukraine. A lot of people thought when the first year of the war started that they might not get this far. But I think the first short answer is that, the Ukrainians have so much to celebrate and be proud of right now. They're at the vanguard of defending democracy. They've really showcased the weakness of the Russian military and been so crucial as a catalyst to reboot NATO. And they've really shown a lot of leadership and compassion, which are essential features for the 21st century. So I think despite the somber tone and, the long slog ahead for Ukrainians, I think, Ukrainians have so much to be proud about. And 32 years on, they have a very bright future ahead, both in the EU and NATO.
18 months into the invasion, what is the current state of the war?
Well, in my opinion, I know there's a lot of hot takes out there that saying that the counteroffensive is it's not working, or there's been a lot of errors. But I really take the position that it's going slow and steady. They're really sticking to their strategy of trying to cut defensive lines and isolate Crimea. And for all of the viewers, it's really important to recognize that the obstacles that the Ukrainian army is facing weren't present last summer. Ukraine is now the most heavily mined country in the world, and Russia's had ample time to make lots of fortifications. So I think the current strategy of conventional military success, which has been successful with smaller pockets of victory on the battlefield in the east, blended with this really unbelievable asymmetric warfare, has been quite impressive. Hitting Moscow 6 days in a row, hitting a supersonic bomber 450 kilometers, I believe, from the Ukrainian border. So I expect this sort of strategy to continue moving forward. And when Ukraine is able to use the F16s, I think that will also be another major advantage, which could really put them over the edge.
I want to talk about support for Ukraine. So there are now 3 European countries providing F-16 jets to Ukraine. Are NATO countries doing enough, though, to support the country?
I think you have to go back a little bit. I mean, if we put this in context, at the beginning, Ukraine didn't have anything. This was a very slow burn about sort of getting ammunition that moved up to it. So the announcement that, at the Vilnius summit in July that NATO was going to be giving F-16s is a major development. I think that's just one part of it. But the other thing that NATO really needs to do is they need to continue doing some of the unsexy things through the Ukraine contact group by delivering lots more ammunition and defense rounds, which is something that doesn't get a lot of advantage. But I think if Ukraine and NATO are both on the same page, and this is going to be a long haul, I think Ukraine and the 40 other allies who make up the contact group are doing an excellent job supporting them. But at a certain point, maybe they need to go from the strategy of boiling the frog, which has been sort of incremental deliveries, not to have a dramatic rise in escalation, to maybe putting their foot more on the gas in certain aspects so that Ukraine can really strike a big victory instead of these smaller ones in which they're gaining.
Just to wrap up, there are a number of elections coming up in Europe and America. How could the outcomes of these elections shape support for Ukraine?
Well, from my end, being based in Bratislava, even though I'm here in Montreal right now, it's quite palatable that you can feel the Ukrainians following this very quickly, very closely. Anyone who followed the GOP results yesterday, there's no consensus on sort of what a future Republican government or administration would look like. And the same sort of lack of consistency also extends to a country like Slovakia, which has been a major provider of former Soviet equipment, financial aid, hosting refugees. So I think moving forward, Ukraine will have to be doing a lot more public diplomacy. President Zelensky surprisingly visited Bratislava not so long ago in a sign, I think, to reassure. And I think the other thing when it comes to Europe, which Canadians should really have on their radar, is at least for the moment, the energy sector, the landscape is much more stable. But if prices rise, you can expect that they might think, oh, we need this war to come to an end and support could dwindle. So as I said, pushing back on Ukraine fatigue and changing the public diplomacy, I think are two things I expect moving forward with the election season coming up, both in America and the EU.
All right, Roger Hilton is a defense fellow for GlobeSec. Thank you for taking the time today.
Thank you very much.